What's up guys, Danielle here, neutralsupport.net. So not too long ago I did a tool short on the Wheels Manufacturing Companion Cube, their adjustable press stop. I really like this tool, obviously. They saw it, they said, hey, stop. No, just kidding. They said, hey, we make some cool professional bottom bracket tools, so why don't you do a video about them? I said, cool, send them to me. So they did. Here I have the bottom bracket bearing extractor kit and their professional level bottom bracket press. So the press that I used in the original tool short was actually their less expensive economy press. So this is actually the pro one. So we'll get to have a little bit of comparison between the two. Let's do it. So here are the professional bottom bracket kits from Wheels Manufacturing. So we have a bottom bracket bearing extractor kit and a bottom bracket press. And also I had them throw in this nifty bottom bracket ruler, which I think is pretty neat. It works very well. It's a pretty quick way to determine what bottom bracket you need. Measures very easily, so I asked them to throw that in too. Let's start with the press. So here's the professional press. You can see that it already comes in cutout foam for those of you who really like foam. These handles are massive. So that's one of my favorite things about them. So the handles themselves are 24 centimeters long. So the handles being extra long, you have some good leverage. These are much longer than the other bottom bracket press that they make. That is just not as fancy. This is the professional. So with the professional press, you get inserts for different sizes. This is the 22 by 37 for when you're doing the GXP. Essentially, this kit and the extractor kit are meant to take care of the bearings in their style of bottom bracket. So if you were familiar with Wheels Manufacturing and some other companies like Enduro, they use an alloy body for a lot of their bottom brackets. Then you can actually remove the bearings from the body of the bottom bracket instead of throwing the cup away. So this is like the guide for installing the left side GXP bearing into the alloy cup of the bottom bracket. So all of these guides correspond to things like that. So this is the 6806 bearing here. You have a pair of each of those. You only need one of those. And then you have your 24 by 37 here at the bottom. You also have some bottom bracket cup tools included with this so that you can install the actual cups themselves, like the thread together cups. Here are the different guides for that. And the last thing is a bushing for the internal diameter of your bottom bracket cup. It's labeled just like their other one in my other video so that you can tell which inner diameter you're using. When you're installing the first side of the pressed cup, you can put this on the opposite side of the empty bottom bracket shell to take up the space. So that's cool. If you remember my companion cube review, we actually got the adjustable press stop works with this rod as well, so you can use it opposite the large handle if you don't need both of them. It is nice to have both of them for leverage sometimes. So that's cool. This is a very nice press. It's large and it comes in this nifty box. So we're going to use that in a second. The bearing extractor. So like I was talking about, it uses an alloy cup, so sometimes you're just replacing the bearing. That's where this tool comes in. So they made this bearing extractor kit so that you can actually take out just the bearing on the inside of the bottom bracket and not actually take out the cup itself. So with this one, like this would be a 30 millimeter spindle. So the inner diameter of the bearing is 30 millimeter. You have this. You have what they call a pusher or a bushing that actually pushes on the inside of the extractor once it's inside the bearing. A guide rod, then you actually use this in conjunction with your press. So that way you can actually feed the bearing into the other side. These guides here correspond with the cup. So you would set that to the outer diameter of whatever you're pushing on so that the bearing will actually pull into this empty space, with this cup being the most outside. So you set this in here. This makes it the right size for whatever you're doing. Then you're actually threading against this backing here to pull the bearing into this hole. So that works out very well, and you'll see that in a second. The overall machining on these cups in particular, very clean, very smooth, nice and anodized, just like the press. You can see the machining marks on these, so if I hold them up pretty close, There's a little bit of machining marks on these bushings. They could be a little bit cleaner, more like maybe the rest of Wheels Manufacturing's bushings. I'm not quite sure why these turned out this way, and I'll pull out the... So this one's not as bad. But you can see that their machining is a little bit rougher than I've come to expect from Wheels Manufacturing, but they still do the job. They're the right size. They just don't have the smooth finish of some of their other bushings that we've talked about in the past. One more note about these, they're not labeled, so you basically just figure out which size is the right size. So this is the 30 millimeter for the 30 millimeter spacing, and all of these correspond with the common inner diameter, so it's not too hard to figure out, but you do have to figure it out yourself because they are not labeled. Or you could label them. So if you're starting with a bottom bracket and you don't have a bottom bracket in it and you have no idea which bottom bracket it is, Wheels Manufacturing makes this cool ruler so you can measure the shell width, find out this is a BB92. You can measure the inner diameter quickly, so it's 41 millimeters. And you can measure your spindle diameter so that you know exactly which bottom bracket you would need. Then they have a link to their bottom bracket finder as well. So they sent this ruler, which is pretty nifty. It also lets you measure the exterior width this way. So it has set bottom bracket widths here. So there's a 92. So we know that this is a BB92. I may have already known that, but I think that this ruler is really handy when you're faced with just having a frame. So very cool, very useful. I really like it. So this is actually their instructions right here. Most of us know how to use this, but it's a very neat tool, purpose-built, does exactly what you need it to do. Figure out what bottom bracket you need. Aside from this ruler, something they didn't include that I already actually had was this bearing ruler. I'm not sure if they still make these, but this is like a machined bearing measuring surface, which is pretty neat. You can just set the bearing on or in these crevices to figure out what size it is. You can set a loose ball bearing in here. It's a ruler. So this has been pretty cool too. They didn't send me this. I already had this. They did send me this ruler because I asked for it. It's very cool. Another nifty thing, enduro bearings. I asked for a Wheels Manufacturing bottom bracket to fit this frame because I already knew what it was even before I had the cool ruler. And they sent me these enduro bearings, which is cool because I'm an enduro ambassador, so I like enduro bearings, and I'll be able to use them in this example. Enough talk. First up, the press. So we're going to press in the bottom bracket. On one side you have the threaded rod that is threaded to one of the big handles here, and a guide that actually fits into the bottom bracket shell. So you're going to put the bottom bracket and its bushing, press bushing, on one side and thread the handle to that side. So you could use the cool adjustable press stop or companion cube with this press as well. So these do have these nice big handles, so you do get double leverage if you use two handles. But if you wanted to save some time, you can use the adjustable press stop on one side of this. So first we're going to push in just one cup. So this operates very much like the presses that you're familiar with, but these handles are incredibly long. So we're going to remove the side that is just in the shell. So you remove this, we're going to replace it with the bottom bracket and the correct bushing for that. Okay, so it is pretty nice to have leverage on both sides when you have something that's a pretty good fit. Like this bottom bracket has a very good interference fit, so it's nice to have both handles to be able to hold on to. There you go. Cool. So one of the good things about an alloy body bottom bracket is you can remove the bearing without discarding the cup. So if you have that, you need a tool to be able to do that. Wheels Manufacturing makes these bearing extractor kits so that you can pull just the bearing out and leave the cup in and then press in a new bearing with their cool press. So we're going to show you how that works. This is a pusher and this is the insert. So we insert this into the actual bearing itself. That. So once you have the insert, you take the press, put on this push rod, like so. So you put the rod on here, and then you install this pusher. You insert all of this together from the opposite side. It's a pretty snug fit, so I'm just going to tap it. So you can see that the pusher is seated on the back of this extractor, and we have the rod all the way through. So a little bit of a snug fit, but it does get through there and seats in. So now we're ready to install the rest. So this is going to match the cup, and then this is the receiver cup that actually fits over that. So at this point you put the next handle on, and it's actually going to pull the bearing out into those cups. Works like a charm. So you see how these pieces fit together. So the bearing pulls into this cup here. And if we see these pieces individually, so we had the receiver cups, so those did their job. Then we have the multiple pieces that we put together to do this. So here was the pusher on the inside, and then you can just pop the bearing off of this. So you would be typically replacing this bearing if it was bad. My bearing is not bad, so I'm just going to push it back in. Thank you for watching. I hope you liked this video. If you did, subscribe to the channel. There'll always be more content coming down the pipeline to you. Love talking about nerdy tool stuff, so I'm just going to keep doing it. A few takeaways. The press, I really like how long the handles are. Very good leverage here. The machining on all of the press hardware, all of the bushings, very good. The guides are very nice. The anodizing is cool. You can kind of keep track of where things are. So for the bottom bracket bearing extractor, I'd say when you have to feed the pusher through the bearing, the fit is a little bit tight. Putting the actual collet in the bearing, also a little bit tight. Those two things may have to exist to make the tool work. I'm not sure. The finish on those pushers could be just a little bit nicer. It could be up to this caliber instead of the sort of tool marking that you see on those. But overall, the tool works well. It does what it needs to do. It lets you replace the bearings without pulling out the cup. None of that stuff. Just pull the bearings out, replace them with the press. So overall, these two tools together basically do everything you need to do to service your Wheels Manufacturing bottom bracket and plenty of other brands. Head over to neutralsupport.net. We've got some cool swag. It helps us keep buying tools when they're not provided to us. It also helps us keep eating, which is important. Hope you have a good day.